You're listening to the Options Insider Radio Network, the home of the Options Podcast. For more quality options programs, visit theoptionsinsider.com or search for Options Insider Radio Network in your podcast provider of choice. Listeners can also access all of our programming through our mobile app available in the iTunes and Google Play stores. Select programs are also available via live stream at mixlr.com/options-insider. That's mixlr.com/options-insider. Don't forget to follow along with your favorite programs and submit your own questions for the hosts at twitter.com/options, stocktwits.com/options, facebook.com/theoptionsinsider, or via questions at theoptionsinsider.com. And now, it's time for the show that breaks down the options market from unusual activity alerts to market analysis, strategy overviews, listener questions, and much more. If it involves puts and calls, then our all-star panel will break it down. It's time to hit the Option Block with your host, Mark Longo from the Options Insider Media Group, and co-hosts Uncle Mike Tosaw from St. Charles Wealth Management, Mark the Greasy Meatball Sebastian from OptionPit.com, Andrew the Rock Lobster Giovinazzi from OptionPit.com, and Henry the FlowMaster Schwartz from Cboe. The Option Block is brought to you by Cboe. Cboe's suite of S&P 500 index options, SPX and mini S&P 500 XSP options, allows traders to speculate on the direction of the market, generate income, and hedge for downside protection of their portfolio of stocks. No matter what kind of trader you are, there's plenty of useful information to take the guesswork out of creating your portfolio strategy and to help you make more educated moves in the market. Visit www.cboe.com/SPX today to learn more. The views expressed herein are those of the speakers and do not necessarily reflect the views of Cboe Global Markets Incorporated or any of its subsidiaries, collectively Cboe. The information provided is for general education and information purposes only. There are important risks associated with transacting in any of the Cboe products or any of the digital assets discussed here. Before engaging in any transactions in those products or digital assets, it is important for market participants to carefully review the disclosures and disclaimers contained at www.cboe.com/US_disclaimers. These products and digital assets are complex and are suitable only for sophisticated market participants. These products involve the risk of loss, which can be substantial and, depending on the type of product, can exceed the amount of money deposited in establishing the position. Market participants should put at risk only funds they can afford to lose without affecting their lifestyle. And now, get ready to hit the Option Block.
All right, everybody. That music means we are back once again. It is Thursday. It is time for your bi-weekly source for all things options related. Yes, it is time once again for the Option Block, what the cool kids call the old OB. My name, of course, Mark Longo, coming at you from the network that continues to just explode. 3 new shows launching in the last, 6+ months. One hitting you just in the last couple of weeks. That's the Hot Options Report. So if you like this show, you're definitely going to like that one. Stay tuned after the close for that one, of course, or on demand wherever you get your favorite podcast platforms. If you want to hear it straight in your ear holes, theoptionsinsider.com/pro is the place to go to get all that goodness, pro Q&As, options, oddities, giveaways. Congrats to our pro member, Mr. Unlimited, who took home the July Pro Trading Crate, his second, I do believe. So if you want to win multiple times, you got to be in it to win it. theoptionsinsider.com/pro is the place to go to learn more as we learn who's joining us on the old Thursday program as well. First, holding down his appointed spot, beaming in from the hallowed halls of Cboe East, none other than the FlowMaster himself, Mr. Henry Schwartz from the aforementioned Cboe. Mr. FlowMaster, welcome back. How go things in the hallowed halls, sir?
Good to see you, Mark. Everything is great here at Cboe. Market's doing something a little different today. It's going down for a change, but markets have been busy. Volumes have been great. We've seen some pretty exciting moves. So I'm looking forward to talking about all the action we've been seeing. But It's everything is peachy out here in New York.
Peachy keen indeed. And you know what? It's always peachy in the land of St. Charles, where he is racing to get back to his office as we speak. But we have him in the mobile office, Mr. Uncle Mike Tosaw from St. Charles Wealth Management. Uncle Mike, welcome back to the show. To you as well, sir.
Always a pleasure to be here. Nothing can stop me from being on the option block, baby.
All right, and nothing can stop us from our appointed rounds as we dive right on into the trading block.
It's time to break down the latest topics, trades, and trends in the world of options. It's time for the Trading Block.
All right, everybody, welcome to the Trading Block, the portion of the show where we break down what the heck is trading out there. It's been an interesting week yet again. Inflation numbers coming in, fast and furious, driving the market north. It's funny because it wasn't a great number, but as we're in that scenario where, you know, it's not as bad as expected, perhaps. So that was enough to light this perpetual fire that has been under the market for years now, that the Fed's going to do this rate cut dance. A spoiler alert, they haven't really yet we've been rallying for years on the backs of two things, AI and rate cuts. One of those has not materialized. Yet there's this persistent hope, this persistent drumbeat that we're going to start cutting these rates, even though wholesale inflation numbers coming out today not looking great. If I'm Powell, I'm pumping the brakes on rate cuts. But hey, you know, I think a lot of people out there just think the Fed is solely exists to be the Fed put to the market. It has no other mandate. It kind of cracks me up out there. But we'll debate Fed policy another day. They got lured into it yesterday on one of my shows. I won't get lured into it again. Everyone has their own opinions on the Fed at the end of the day. It's like politics. Everyone has different viewpoints on it. But either way, that's been driving a lot of the action again this week. The S&P right now, after this wholesale number, coming in a little bit lighter, off about 0.25%. NASDAQ off 0.25%, and the Dow off 0.5%. That's on the backs of pretty much all of them hitting new all-time highs on the heels of that CPI number. So inflation giveth and inflation taketh away this week. We're in the latter category right now. VIX, after getting just old yellered this week, they just dragged it out to the woodshed and put a bullet in it. It was wild to see how little regard anyone had for volatility this week. Oh, you have a bid and sold to you. Choke on it. Just wild. I mean, I'm not mad at it. I have a lot of short vol positions out there. It's just wild to see how aggressive it all came to fruition this week. Today, getting a little bit of that back. I emphasize a little. 15.25 is where our pal VIX Cash is hanging out after dipping down to sub 14.5. You know, the days of the logins 25 and above seem like a distant memory, at least for right now, which makes those 25s we talked about on Monday. The 25s for 25 cents going out next Wednesday, and 60% of you folks wanted to buy those on Monday. That's kind of wild, but hey, that's the market we're in. I'm kind of with a lot of you out there. It does seem like they are maybe a little bit just aggressively smacking this vol without regard to anything else out there, but then you look at what else is going on, and it does make a certain amount of sense. Either way, VIX Cash 15.25 right now, and our old pal VVIX getting a little bit frothier. Oh, by the way, 15.25. That's still down 0.5 point from where it was on the Monday show. Again, they took vol to the woodshed, listeners. And VVIX 98, getting a few points back today, but still down 2 points. It was at an even par, even 100 on the Monday show here. So a lot to unpack out there as we go around the horn. Let's go out to the hallowed halls once again, the hallowed halls of Cboe East. Mr. FlowMaster, it's that kind of week. Inflation giveth, and then inflation taketh away. What's been catching your eye out there, sir?
Well, you kind of mentioned it. I mean, very low levels of volatility. Actually, my friend Dean Kernot from Macro Risk was on Bloomberg this morning talking about how VIX is low, you know, as you said, but also realized volatility has been incredibly low, like low single digits. So it's just been very quiet, and you know, it's a really interesting time because basically, in fact, Dean mentioned this. He said the stock market is kind of hedging itself. What you're having is very low volatility at the index level, but you know, as we've talked about and you've talked about on all your shows, there's plenty of things moving 20 or 30%. with or without earnings, right? We there's just all sorts of kind of excitement happening, but a lot of the moves are canceling out at the index level, which is kind of the paradise for dispersion traders who basically sell index vol and buy some mix of the single stock vol. So it's been, so VIX has been low, implied volatility has been low, like at the low end of its range, but realized has also been, even lower. So meaning people buying index options have actually struggled to make any money. That's one of the reasons you see VIX just kind of getting pounded, even though today we were actually down. We're looking like we could be down about 1%. We kind of pulled back up. We're almost flat, which, hey, that's what zero vol is all about. But we're not getting a lot of reaction in VIX because it's funny. We talk about VIX as a forward indicator, right? Because it is what the options at the 30-day term say about the going forward. However, it also kind of has a lot of aspects of being a backward indicator, meaning if the implied volatility is higher than realized and owning options is a losing trade for some amount of time, that kind of naturally feeds into lower option premiums and therefore a lower VIX. So in a way, low volatility really does lead to low implied volatility as well. So market is, fine. We have a little bit of a down day today, but, market's been on a tear. Year to date, we're up 10% in the S&P almost. Yesterday, the small caps had a pretty good day for a change. Russell's only up less than 2.5% year to date. But, and then, we have the summit in Alaska tomorrow. So I think plenty of people a little worried about what kind of headlines might get fired out from that. It's an interesting time to be trading, especially considering it's, the middle of August.
Low vol begets low vol, says the FlowMaster out there. That's not music to the ears of a lot of our listeners who like a little bit more juice. Obviously, a lot of them lean dark side and vol, so they like a little bit lower vol, but they don't want to get back to those dark days of 2017 where we're hanging out sub 10 single digits for months on end in VIX land. All right, I think I bought him enough time to get back to the hallowed halls of St. Charles Wealth Management. Uncle Mike, sir, what is catching your eye on the markets today? And also, where were you yesterday or earlier this week when you just stopped and yelled your catchphrase amongst a bunch of strangers? And what kind of looks did you get, sir?
Well, everyone was talking about that. When you get new all-time highs, the whole world does. Who doesn't get excited about such things?
I could just see you picking out some produce in the supermarket and then just dropping everything to yell, never before. Everyone just looking at you like, what is wrong with that guy? I could just see that, sir.
Now in St. Charles, they know that I know Mark Longo and I'm part of the show. So people kind of expect stuff like that from me around these parts.
It is a weird town, that's for sure.
No doubt. I think right now, besides inflation, I really do think that the big summit in Alaska is going to be the news. And not only that, I think they're doing this right before a weekend. And because the news is out saying that if things go well tomorrow, then Putin and Zelensky will actually sit down together. Now, what does if things go well tomorrow mean? We don't know that. Regardless of how it's going to be, like anything, when the Fox News, it's going to say Trump did a great job. CNN's going to say Trump did a lousy job, this, that, and the other. So we're going to have to actually parse and figure out what the actual real story was, as seems to be the trend in news these days. But I think that we're going to have to really keep a close eye on that for what's going to happen, because this is going to be another event to where it's not like an unemployment number where it is this or it's not that, or it's not going to be a specific number that we're waiting on. We actually have to see how the market is going to react to how the news networks spin the event and what the actual truth of the event was, which we will never know as the general public, of course. But it's going to be kind of, I could see us having a lot of movement one way or another on the Sunday night futures, because I'm not sure if everything's going to be all played. I'm not sure what time they're meeting tomorrow, but even if they are meeting in the morning or whatever, I'm not sure if that's going to be factored into the market and fully digested by day's end, even if they are meeting during the day tomorrow. So that's the big news as to what we're seeing. The other thing that I'm seeing a lot of in terms of some individual names is that doggone fruit company. By gosh, Apple. That is just something crazy. It has just been, whenever Apple goes down, it's not wise to bet against it, it seems, because just seeing the movement with which we've had in Apple over the course of the last 10 days or so, we're in the almost down around 200. We're at 233 again. So it's hard for the market not to have exciting moves when Apple is doing that. But it really hasn't. The market has not out-excited Apple. So we have that. Microsoft is actually still pulling back a little bit from its big earnings day a few weeks ago. So Microsoft is back down in the 520s, which is by no means a bad spot to be, considering it's higher than what it was before earnings still. But we were in the 550s with Microsoft, but it seems like it's kind of coming down to earth a little bit here. So we're getting a lot of individual things that are making things very exciting for the market. But if we really want to make a run at, I can't even believe that I'm saying this, the 7,000 level over the course of the next year, kind of felt weird to say for the S&P, we're going to need to get a little bit more broad-based. And should that happen, we shall see. But in the meantime, let's just enjoy the good markets with which we've had. And if you have the ability to hedge yourself and you have the parts of your portfolio that you feel need hedging, the fact that we have a VIX that's in the 14s and not 24, it's not a bad time to protect yourself. My opinion, anyway.
How many rate cuts does it take to get us to 7,000? My goodness, that does sound wild when you say it out loud, sir. 7,000 SPX listeners. That's a lot of AI and a lot of rate cuts and a lot of other trips to Washington. Let's just put it mildly to get to that level, I think. Let's see what levels we're seeing out there in the markets today. And VIX looking all right, not lighting the world on fire, but not completely asleep at the wheel either today. 333,000 contracts exactly on the tape right now. The ADV 733, so exactly 400K more to go to hit that ADV. That ADV ticking up a little bit as we saw a day over 1 million contracts earlier this week on the heels of all that inflation madness and that big rally out there in the markets. The hot option out there today, also the subject of one of our flash polls, is the Nove 22s, the Nove 22s. You don't see a lot of Nove lighting it up, so that in and of itself is kind of interesting. Nove 22 is going up almost 31,000 times today for right around 2 3/4, which, we have to ask at that point, listeners. Nove 22s, 30,000 of them for $275 at that price. Are you a buyer? Would you rather buy them maybe as part of a vertical, so you buy those, sell something else above it? Would you rather straight sell them or sell them as part of a vertical? So maybe you buy a lower strike and you sell those. Right now, our audience is kind of split. You want to buy them straight up or you want to buy them as part of a vertical. Those are the two winners with about 37% each. Right around 25% for straight sellers. No one wants to sell them as part of a vertical, so no one wants to buy lower and sell those there, which is kind of interesting. But again, $275, that's a lot of duration. I mean, it sounds expensive. And, also the 22 strike may sound like a distant memory. But now in November, I don't know. It's interesting. Can we get one tweet that can get us back up to that level? It's an intriguing one, and that's why we put it out to you folks. That'll stay live throughout the rest of the day, so you folks on the podcast can play along too. Make your voices heard as we keep on rolling. What else is lighting up the tape out there today, listeners? The answer is SPY is looking pretty robust right now. A little over 5, about 5.05 million contracts on the tape right now. So well over halfway to their ADV of a little bit north of 8 million out there right now. So SPY looking spicy, and the X following suit. Right around 2.5 million contracts on the tape in the S right now. The ADV 3.83 million to be precise out there. So well over halfway to its ADV as well. So seems like a spicy day. Again, we saw a sell-off, then maybe some rally. We'll see if we could get green again. That would certainly be another pretty strong whipsaw day. We know VIX and SPX tend to like a little bit of whipsaw action from a volume perspective. So certainly leading to some action right now. The FlowMaster alluding to small caps. I've been talking about this week as well. If you've been listening to our hot options report, small caps just on fire from a volume perspective these days. They were kind of languishing for a while, putting up 600, 700,000 contracts, and then bam, well over 2 million, and their ADV continues to surge as well. It's up to nearly 1.5 million contracts now, and they're already past that right now. 1.55 million contracts on the tape for small caps. So IWM on the old rampage right now, as the kids like to say. Let's just look really quickly. Yeah, it's given back about almost 2% today, about 1.75%, but it's been a wild 5 days, rallying all the way up to right around 231 and coming back down to about 227 right now. So hot times out there in small caps. If you've been slinging some small caps, clearly a lot of people have been, even on days when the VIX and the SPX kind of looking and struggling to find some paper. Small caps have been hot. So interesting stuff out there. And not to be outdone, the Qs saying, hold my bear, kids, 2.77 million contracts. The ADV just a tick over 4. And that's inflated over the last few sessions as well. So the Q's looking hot, well over 500,000 contracts north of where we expect them to be this time of day. So spicy stuff on the index front. Can we say the same for single names? And the answer is yes. This is a banger. We're having a hot day out there today, listeners. Looks like, sprinkle a little bit of inflation and a little bit of other fun on the market. And next thing you know, bam, you are off to the races on a very spicy day. In fact, I just re-racked these numbers right now, just so we can make sure we get the latest up-to-date specs. And yeah, we're pushing 450,000 contracts to break into the top 10, listeners. Haven't seen a day that dense in quite some time. Lately, we've been around 250, a decent day, 300, maybe 350 if we're really looking hot. So 450, we haven't kissed this level in quite some time. 449 to be precise. That gets us to our old pal, the monster, aka MicroStrategy. If you've been listening to the crypto rundown or the futures rundown yesterday, cover your ears, Uncle Mike. Crypto is just inescapable these days. The numbers that are going up, especially on the ETH side, ETH might be the story of the year in terms of asset classes out there. Just the absolute shellacking that it had in the first half of the year, and then the absolutely ridiculous recovery and now rally it's had. Just a tale of two very different products just in the span of a few months. Absolutely wild. It was, I don't think show hasn't been running that long, the futures rundown, listeners. We've never had a product top the year-to-date losers list and then in the span of just a few months swing to topping the year-to-date winners list. It never happened before, so absolutely wild stuff. All that a long way around to saying MicroStrategy, mostly on the Bitcoin treasury side, giving back some today, 370.5 off about 19.5 bucks or about 5%. So a wee bit of red on the screen for MicroStrategy. The monster looking a little bit less monstrous today. Either way, number 10 on a very hot day. There are some days you can get up to 450 and maybe be at number 6 or even number 5, so breaking in at number 10, 450, that's impressive. Our old pal CoreWeave also giving up some of the ghosts today, off about 15 bucks, trading right around 102.85, off nearly 13%. So a bad little turn for them, but they had earnings and they were rallying early this week. They got up to about nearly 150, 148.75. So that's been a rough turnaround, giving up 50 handles from Tuesday to now. So apparently the outlook, after they had a chance to digest the numbers, that's of course also, that's the one that I think the CEO came out and called their sales numbers unacceptable, which is not a good thing. So yeah, they were rally, then giving up 50 handles, fully 30%. That's a rough one. CoreWeave number 9, 472. Any of you folks been slinging any CoreWeave out there? It's been a hot one of late. Number 8, our old pal Palantir, also giving back some today. Everyone's tithing back to the market gods today. The market gods have been pretty good to them, but every once in a while they expect you to put a little bit in their cup. And today looks like that day, listeners. Palantir, number 8, 503,000 contracts on the tape. 181.40, off about $3 or about 1.5%. Good for the number 8 spot. Number 7, we've got a new wolf, Mr. FlowMaster. This one excited me. Not our old pal Wolf Speed, which I still maintain is the greatest name in the history of listed companies. Just fantastic. But no, we have Terra Wolf Ticker symbol also Wolf, but the more Germanic Wolf, WULF. TeraWolf, 787, up $2.40, or 44%. My goodness. Oh, Google took an 8% stake, and they're a crypto miner. They have a Google-backed AI hosting deal. My goodness. Just when I was thinking we had all the wolves we can handle in our top 10. Here we go. TeraWolf, welcome to the party. Number 7, 605,000 contracts. You know I have to do it, listeners. I am legally obligated. I also know what the answer is going to be before I even hit it. You know it's all wild, near-dated, out-of-the-money calls. And let's see. The hot option today in TeraWolf. We got a bunch of FlowMaster's flexes gumming up the works here. All these 8.5s expiring in January. So let's just scroll past that. Down to the 8s. That's what I thought. On the listed side, listeners. August 8th. So let's see. They hit that today. They got up to 812. So they were in the money briefly. It was like an average price of about 28 cents. Changing hands 33,000 times. Can they close over 8 by tomorrow, listeners? I guess we'll find out. Also be interesting to see if the Wolf can hold on to its spot in the hot options report today. But either way, always fun when we see newcomers breaking into the top 10. And we've seen a lot of those. Just since we started that show, we've seen a lot of new names breaking into the top 10. So I guess we had good timing on the show front. Either way, number 7, the Wolf. Wow, 2 wolves. Which wolf is better? Listen, which one do you like better? Wolf Speed or TeraWolf? Number 6, this is another newcomer to the top 10 that now has decided just to stay. It's open door, getting a nice lift today after seemingly like they were stalling out around the 2.5 level. I know some folks in our pro chat were talking about overriding it on the 2.5 level. Stock rallying 50 cents today to about $3. So getting a little bit of a lift back out there. More buyers than sellers. I don't know what else is. What else can you look for in a meme-heavy name like this? Either way, number 6, it's open. 705,000 contracts on the tape. Let's go to number 5. It's the fruit company, Uncle Mike's beloved fruit company. Just yet more proof. First you have Nvidia, and then you have Apple. Now it seems like Intel trying to benefit from this. You just go down to Washington with a bunch of cash in your back pocket, and good things happen to your stock. And Apple, definitely an example of that. 233 off about a third of a buck right now. But man, they have a rally. They were glued to that par. We were talking about that par strike at the beginning of the year and how selling the D's. I think they were the D's par puts for $18. I believe that was Apple, not Nvidia. Either way, it was somewhere in that range. That looks like a good trade right now, obviously, but just absolutely wild stuff. How much it has rallied off. Not much news outside of that, really. Kind of weird. Number 5, the fruit company, 868 on the tape today. Number 4, keeping it in the A tech names, AMD. 181.70 off about 2 2/3 or about 1.5%. Good for number 4, 872 on the tape. Man, we got an A tech strip again. Number 3, the Amazonians. Roaring back to life. 995 on the tape. You know, usually it's AI and data centers and all these things that make the headlines for these names and drive the upside. These days in Amazon, it's local perishable foods. They're adding to their distribution and same day delivery, and that's rallying them up about 760 or about 3.5% today. 232.14 is where it's trading right now. Good for nearly 1 million contracts. 995 on the tape. So apparently the street likes a little bit of perishable food action. As we go to number 2, yes, number 2, it's Tesla, also giving back to the market guys today. 332.70 off $6.5 or about 2%, putting up 1.4 million contracts. And the big dog, such as it is, not that heavy today. 1.6 million contracts only. That's for Nvidia. 182, pretty much even, bucking the trend, actually gaining $0.50 today while the rest of the names are selling off out there. So interesting stuff out there. A very dense day in the top 10, which is kind of interesting to see. Of course, a lot of this driven also by earnings. We are in the midst of earnings season still. We had, of course, AMC on Monday. Circle, a hotly anticipated first ever announcement. You know, it's kind of hard to crunch the data on the name when they've never announced before. So we have no historical data to compare it to. So that was kind of fun. Circle rallying hard. We were talking a lot about selling out of the money puts. Looks like if you did that, you had a good chance to close those. The stock rallied pretty hard. Coming back to earth now, $7.5 or about 5% today for Circle. So maybe, let's see, how high did it get? Looks like it got up to about 186 intraday on the back of the earnings. So yeah, if you were selling, I believe we were talking about 140, 135, 130 puts for decent premiums. If you sold any of those, hopefully you took them off. Stock back down to 145 right now. So interesting stuff for Circle. Uncle Mike's favorite, Cisco, yesterday. Today we had John Deere and AMAT. Interesting stuff out there. If you want to see all these names for yourselves, listeners, you know where to go, theoptionsinsider.com. Click on the options news and articles tab. Let's just see really quickly. Cisco was after the bell yesterday. They were pricing in 5.1%, trading right around $70. They delivered a whopping nothing. So if you were selling the preem to live the dream in Cisco, you're pretty happy right now. It's still trading 69 and change. So they moved pretty much not at all on the back of that announcement. So kind of the premium seller's dream on that one. AMAT after the bell today, they were trading pretty much 190 exactly. They were pricing in 965, which is a little juicy when you look at their average move is right around $7.20. So pricing in about 245 on the top of that. So kind of interesting. Is it worth it? Then again, most names this cycle, if you lean on the outperformance outside of the one we just talked about, outside of Cisco, it's pretty much the winning trade. So we'll keep an eye on that one after the bell today. Let's look really quickly. We got Target coming up next week, 20th before the bell. 105 and a third is where they were trading. They were pricing in 839 in the past. They moved 887. So taking about 50 cents off the top there. That's kind of interesting. A lighter straddle for Target. And then Walmart's 21st before the bell. They're trading about 101. So similar price levels for the two of them as well. Straddle wise, they were pricing in about $4, $3.94 actually. In the past, they've moved about $4.25. So taking a little bit of juice off the top in Walmart as well. Is that the right play in big box retail? I guess we'll find out. Listeners, we're looking here to the season. The season right now is telling you just buy vol with both hands, listeners. Our long-term average is 119%, and we are still blowing that away right now at 130% is our average for this season. So just absolutely wild. The lone down week was week one. Only 48 names in week one, so take that with a grain of salt. And that came in at 99%. Everything else, 156% for week two, 141% for week three, 121% for week four, week five, 108% so far. So just wild stuff out there, listeners. You want to see all this for yourselves and the literally hundreds of names I don't have time to get to on the show. Head on over to the website as we head on over into the Odd Block.
It's time to break down the most interesting, unusual, and downright questionable options activity that's been identified by theoptionsinsider.com. It's time for the Odd Block.
All right, listeners, it is the time you've all been waiting for. Time to unleash the FlowMaster and see what he has on his radar today. And he's not going maybe in the direction you might think. He's not going to a meme-heavy name or a biotech or quantum computing or one of these things that I'm light up tape lately. No, he's going back to gold. He loves gold. In particular, Equinox Gold Corp, ticker symbol EQX. It's been a while since we checked in on this one. Trading 785, so having a hot day today, up about $1 or about 15%. So a banger day out there for EQX. They just had earnings, looks like, and obviously the street liking what they're hearing. Over the year, gold's had a pretty good run, so you can see that reflected in this stock as well. It's up about 2 3/4 or 53% on the year, and most of it has been upward. That said, it did take a bit of a downturn. An aggressive one along with gold. It got up to about 711 on June 4th. By June 30th, it was back down below $6, 5 3/4. So if you wanted a near-term scoop, looks like that was the level because it's up over $2, about 210 from that level. So a pretty good year and a pretty good couple of days here for Equinox Gold. Mr. FlowMaster, what caught your eye, sir?
Sure. So this is an interesting one. I'm not actually a big fan of gold as a metal in a portfolio. However, I am long a couple of the miners, so in a way that the correlation is super high. So I guess I am a gold fan. But this name hit hit our biggest trade scanner on Tuesday When the stock was 668, somebody paid 30 cents for 60,000 of the October 7.5 calls, opening a new position. A massive trade for this name coming in. Up until that point, the average daily volume was 3,800 contracts total. So that's a humongous trade. And what's also kind of interesting is it printed on the ISE as an auction trade, which is an interesting one. It means they really hadn't kind of locked up all the liquidity in the call around market. And I saw that trade and also knew that earnings were coming today. Now that's in October, so it wasn't specifically an earnings trade, but we've seen a few of these. And so I got long that stock and got out of some of it yesterday and the rest of it today. And they're up pretty huge. In fact, they got the direction right. That's a $3 million winner based on, I think they're trading around 82 cents right now. So it's pretty impressive. Obviously, it's a big, it's a $1.8 million block of premium to lay out, but really a huge directional trade. It kind of reminds me of the one that I want to talk about in a few minutes in Unity software as well.
And did they close it, or are they still riding it, Mr. FlowMaster?
No, they still have them, and so they got plenty more time on these. So I don't know if vol, there is your typical after earnings vol crush, but it does not look like they've gotten out of any of them. Actually, the next day there was some 7.5 call buyers as well, even in the shorter dated. So I mean, they have traded a couple blocks today. 6,000 of them do look sold for 71 cents. So maybe they're kind of trying to take some of their initial investment off the table. But it looks to me like they're kind of leaving that position on.
Interesting stuff. I like how FlowMaster sees that block and he's like, "Bam! I'm buying the stock." I like it there, sir. It worked out for everyone involved. It seems like, and they're still working out. Would you be selling those right now, listeners? You got more than a 2xer on your hands? Would you be riding them? Would you take a little bit off the top to cover your initial outlay and let the rest fly? I'm curious, how would you unwind that bad boy? As we keep on rolling out to Amplitude Inc., ticker symbol AMPL, AMPL. I think we talked about this one before, but it's been a little bit here. This is a digital analytics software company, listeners. Trading about 11.25, off about 40 cents or a little over 3% today. So not a banger day for them. On the year, though, it's been pretty good, up about $3 or 35%. They had a decent run all the way into our first rally in the first part of the year, listeners, topping out a little bit past Valentine's Day for looks like about $14.88, nearly $15 was their high. Then, of course, we all know what happened in the market, and Amplitude followed them down, bottoming out in late April, right around $7.50. So they got cut pretty much in half. And then they rallied again. They brought it all the way back up to about $13 on June 4th. And they kind of hit that level a few times, $13 again on July 9th. And then they've had a few peaks since then, but mostly it's been moving in the other direction, selling off back to about $11.20, where we find them today. So kind of hanging out right in the middle of their 52-week range. That said, Mr. FlowMaster, what did you spot out there in Amplitude, sir?
Yeah, so this is a name I've never traded it. I don't even know if I've ever heard about it, but there was one kind of distinct trade. There was a sweep buyer just after 11:30 this morning. Customer paid from 25 to 25 cents for just a total of about 1,800 of these SEP 12.5 calls. These are opening. Stock was 11.08 at the time. So it is a directional trade, bigger than what we're used to in here. Average daily call volume itself is 1,500. So it exceeds that. It's the biggest trade that I could find in a while. But there's actually one kind of interesting thing about what this trade has kind of done to the pricing, which is if you look at the put call skew, which we talk about from time to time, it effectively just kind of tells you how much more focused on downside versus upside the kind of option traders are, and in general, usually the puts are a little bit more expensive for a given delta. And then in speculative situations, you see it the other way around. And in fact, I'm trying to run a query right now, which counts the number of, we've talked about this before, it counts the number of inverted skew names where the call skew is higher. Okay, that's a kind of a sign of market exuberance. And actually, I want to add to that a count of the daily occurrences of stock up and vol up at the same time, which is also kind of a marker of kind of pretty aggressive speculation. In this case, the put call skew has really kinked to the upside. Currently in the September options, the 25 delta put vol is around 50, and the 25 delta call vol is around 150. Now it's at $11 stock, so you don't have a ton of strikes to go off of. But I'm just looking at like the September, stock's 11.20. There's 10 strike and 12 half strikes, so that kind of straddles your the stock price. The 10 puts in Oct are 15 cents at a quarter, and the 12 half calls, which are similar distance basically, they're 25.35. So it kind of shows you that there's a focus to the upside. I don't know if there's any catalyst in this name or what, but it's one to keep an eye on. And if you like to overwrite, once we get that juicy upside call skew, it can be a nice time to sell calls if you kind of disagree with the whole speculative angle.
Wild stuff out here, listeners. Speaking of wild stuff, the FlowMaster has a bee in his bonnet for his now favorite holding. I think he told me ahead of the show this is 80% of his core holdings now. It's Unity Software, listeners. just an absolutely hot one out here. A ticker symbol U. We talked about it many times out there. Trading right around 38 in the third, up about 40 cents today, or about 1%. You know the deal. It's been a wild one. It's been a wild year, up $22.50 or 143%. The meme kids have the bit in their teeth for this one. Looks like it's got his low back on April 8th of 16.75, so it has more than doubled since then, up to, like we said, a little bit shy of $40 right now. We've talked about this quite a few times here on the show. I'm just looking here, going back about a month, July 17th. You were talking about some May 30 call buyers going up in big blocks, 10,000 at a time, when the stock was 36.75. So people have been buying upside in this name for a while, Mr. FlowMaster. What came on your radar today?
Well, so this is really just an honorable mention. So this was just similar to the EQX. This was a name that I got into the stock because I saw the big call buyers. We definitely talked about these in the springtime when the stock was kind of like 25-ish, and somebody was buying very aggressive, very visible 10,000 lots of the Jan 30 calls. Total of 80,000 of those were opened around under $4 for most of them. That's when the stock was 25, 26-ish. I think it got a little bit of a bounce out of earnings, but really it's just kind of run up, and it's trading at 38 right now. So those calls are trading around 11 something. That's an $60 million winner for that position. And what I'm most excited about is the 13F data, which I'm a data geek, so this is what I play with. Is disclosures made by hedge funds and asset managers on their positions, including option positions, long option positions. And the deadline for Q2 is tomorrow, and actually through the weekend, meaning that the 80,000 calls that I believe are probably held by one hedge fund, they're going to show up. We're going to be able to see what fund that was. And as we've mentioned before, Unity is a roaring kitty name, kind of in the past at least. And the way that they were traded, it almost seemed to me like they're trying to kind of raise some eyebrows and maybe kind of generate some FOMO, MOMO kind of interest. So I'm not in the stock anymore. I took my money, but it'll be very interesting next week. Remind me. We will look at that data, and I assume we'll kind of know the kind of fund that was really buying them.
The final unmasking. It'll be like the end of the whodunit. Sherlock Holmes says, "You are the killer." Out there. Yeah, we were talking about that over a month ago. We were talking about the 80,000 lot that was open then. We were talking about the May 30s. We were saying there's 80,000 open then. So yeah, we've been looking at this volume for a while, listeners. Now we will finally unmask the culprit. as we keep on rolling into a little bit of the old mail block.
It's time to take your seat on the All-Star panel as we read your emails, tweets, Facebook messages, website comments, and much more. It's time for the Mail Block.
All right, everybody, welcome to the Mail Block, the portion of the show where you folks take the reins, your questions, your comments. We got some fun questions of the week going right now, but I got completely derailed by the conversation that's going on in our chat right now about Rocky IV. They said they're going to watch Rocky IV to get them pumped for the big summit coming up this week. Rocky IV, it's up there with like Red Dawn as one of the seminal America versus Russia 80s movies. One of my personally greatest theater-going experiences of all. That was a young kid, and going into this movie, I had never seen anything like this. I don't think still to this date I ever really have again. Just grown adults losing their minds, leaping out of their seats to cheer when Rocky was winning. When he was losing, they were crouching in their seats. It was like it was real. It was amazing to see. So I remember looking at that wide-eyed as a young kid saying, this is the greatest movie I've ever seen in my life. And I haven't seen it in a long time. I've been toying with the idea of watching it again. It's my favorite of the Rockies. I kind of just want to jump to that one. My son has never seen the Rockies. I kind of want to watch them with him, but one's kind of slow. Obviously, the early two's got some good stuff in it. But, I mean, 4, how do you beat Rocky 4? I mean, you got the montage on the beach, Apollo Creed, I Must Break You. I mean, it's up there. If you ask me some days, it might be my favorite 80s movie. It might be the most 80s movie. I will give it that. But just wild stuff. I got completely derailed by that in our chat. But you know what? I'm here for it. As we keep on rolling here, let's go out to what the rest of our folks are saying here about our questions of the week. Right now, you folks want to buy those Nove 22s and VIX for $275. 45.5% of you want to straight up buy them. 36.4% of you now want to buy them in a vertical. 18.2% of you want to straight sell them. So you're straight selling the Nove 22s. You don't care. And then selling them in a vertical, nobody wants to do that right now. We also have a question of the week right now. Uncle Mike, I want to get your thoughts on. We say, which earnings name are you planning to trade options on this week? We gave you 3 and the infamous other, Circle, AMAT, CoreWeave, and other. Uncle Mike, which one of those names do you think is winning our poll right now? And then, or maybe do you have an other you'd like to share? And then also, because I know you have them, what are your enduring memories of Rocky IV, sir?
Well, I mean, I'll go with Applied Materials AMAT is what I think the audience is picking for the earnings of the week, if you will. I'm typically not an earnings guy. I typically try to avoid them personally and try to hedge against them or something along those lines if we need to. But I'll go with AMAT for the audience. In terms of the Rockies, I am partial to Rocky 3, not going to lie, but Rocky 4 is a very close second of mine. If you can't find the DVDs for any of the Rocky movies, just come over to my house. I have every Rocky movie memorized. I can just say and explain every one of them. That's how much of a Rocky fan that I am.
I'll tell my son, we're going out to St. Charles, son. We're going to get some Skippy Zeros. Then we're going to sit in Uncle Mike's backyard for a dramatic reenactment of Rocky IV.
I could totally do that. And that's how much of a Rocky fan that I am. There's no, even the bad Rockies are still pretty good, I think. So definitely a huge fan there. I could go on for literally hours on the best part of every movie. And for right now, I'll paraphrase a little bit so the censors don't get us. But get up, you son of a buck, because Mickey loves ya. And I'll pass it back to you.
I must break you. I love everything about that movie. It drips 80s in all the right ways. Mr. FlowMaster, same question for you. Do you have one of these earnings favorites? Or maybe there's another name you're watching this week. Which way do you think our audience is going? And then C, what are your own personal thoughts on some days might be the mother of all 80s films, Rocky IV?
What was the first question?
I know it's hard to focus on anything beyond Rocky IV because it is so awesome. CoreWeave, AMAT, Circle, or other. Which way is our audience going?
You know, it has been a heck of a firework season for earnings. So I think maybe CoreWeave has kind of captivated the attention because, as I said, the realized volatility in the index has been super duper low, but you look at something like CoreWeave and the realized vol is 125%. So CoreWeave, that's what I would go for. And then in terms of the 80s, I actually have a story on the Red Dawn rather than Rocky. There was a girl in my freshman class in college, bright red hair, and her name was Dawn, and it was 1985. So she for the rest of our college career, was everybody talked about Red Dawn.
That is an awesome name.
I mean, I defy you to watch the opening scene of Red Dawn and then not want to go out and just punch the first Russian-speaking person you meet in the face. It is such a jingoist. It is a propaganda film masquerading as a Hollywood film. But yeah, so Rocky IV and Red Dawn go back and forth in my mind as kind of the most seminal East versus West 80s films. But right now, it's going back and forth with our audience as well. 45.7% are coming down on the side of Circle. 34.3% going for CoreWeave. 11.4% for other. We got a lot of wild write-ins. UVix doesn't have earnings, guys. I hate to break it to you. You could trade it this week, but it's not really an earnings name. We got iBit, also not really traditionally a name you think of with earnings. We got some ETH write-ins, ETH trusts. These are all fun things to trade. Not exactly earnings related, but we know what? We appreciate the enthusiasm. No love for AMAT, only 8.6% for AMAT. That's kind of wild. But to me, I already said earlier this week, 60% of you folks wanted to buy those AUG 25s in VIX for 25 cents. Expiring next week. I got a feeling if we re-rack that now, the numbers might be a little bit different. We are, of course, coming up against expiration there. We also asked you folks last week, just kind of a fun one while we were traveling last week, which handle you think VIX will close closer to at the end of this month, end of August? Very straightforward, 15 or 20. And slightly more than half of you, 53.5%, said it was going to close closer to 20, 46.5% for 15, as we keep on rolling and go around the block.
It's time to tell you what we'll be watching on our trading screens until the next episode. It's time for Around the Block.
All right, listeners, as we're coming into the end of the show, let's see how we're looking out there. And I wouldn't be surprised to see that we've pretty much rallied to the green. And we actually have in the NASDAQ. The NASDAQ is now green, slightly, 0.02%. The S&P is flirting with green, only off slightly. Dow off about 0.25%. So that sounds about right. If there's any red on the screen, the Bulls and Uncle Mike and his little cabal, they eat it up pretty quick out there right now. VIX cash back down to about a 1480. So we'll see if this trend continues, if we close the day green, or if we hang out here, or we whipsaw right back down to the red. Either way, let's go back around the horn. Mr. FlowMaster, we'll start with you, sir. What are you keeping an eye on through the weekend until your next appearance next week?
Well, I think the macro factors will be what I'll be kind of looking at as far as from a trading point of view. One thing that our listeners might like to try to check out is my colleague Ed Tom put on a webinar this morning on decomposing changes in the VIX, basically breaking it out by sticky strike move and vertical and kind of horizontal, like an entire shift of the curve and tails moving. And it was really, really interesting. That webinar was recorded. Now there'll be a link up at Cboe.com shortly. So I would say come back this weekend or Monday and look for the link. But it's really, really interesting because you get some of these big moves, like what we saw in April or back in August. And, we all talk about the VIX went up 6 points, but there's a big difference when the VIX goes up 6 points in a kind of a panic, or the VIX goes up 6 points because there's kind of a short-term shock. And just trying to break that out and make it nice and easy to understand, Ed did a great job, and that's what I would suggest people check out.
Our buddy Dr. VIX on VolViews a few weeks ago was extolling the virtues of that paper. He wants to get Ed on to talk about that VIX decomposition. So we might have to do that. I've heard good things. I've not had a chance to sit down and read through all the details yet myself, but I am looking forward to doing so, listeners. In the meantime, Mr. Uncle Mike, sir, what are you keeping an eye on until your next appearance on the old Monday show?
I'm actually keeping an eye on the futures on Sunday night. I think we'll have some type of movement tomorrow, but I think that once the market digests everything macro that's happening tomorrow, there'll be it'll be thinking about it and then reacting more on Sunday night as opposed to on Friday. But if we do get a new all-time high tomorrow, I will not complain.
How much of a sell-off do we get in the market if Putin shows up to that summit and just says, "I must break you"?
Then Trump's going to say, "Go for it."
Who is Drago? Who is Apollo in that scenario? I leave that to you to decide out there, listener. Unfortunately, that music means we are done, at least for this show. But don't you worry, we're not going to leave you hanging. It's not the end of our content day, not by a long shot. The producers hate my voice, and they love you folks. So we got more coming up right after this. I'll be joined in a little bit by our good buddy, Ask and You Shall Receive on Twifo, Dan the Man Grams, joining us to break down all things lighting up the world of futures. And spoiler alert, there's a lot. So it should be a fun one. Stay tuned for that if you're hanging out in the pro. Just chill a little bit. We'll put some fun stuff in there. We'll be back in a little bit with Dan the Man. Then after that, one final time, of course, to wrap up the day on the Hot Options Report. But before we go, Mr. FlowMaster, folks want to check out that report you just mentioned, or that paper on VIX, or they want to check out all the cool goodies you and the team are working on, where should they go? What should they do, sir?
Just head over to Cboe.com/RMA for our data and platforms, and just Cboe.com and look for the tab that says Market Intelligence for some of the other great content we have.
And definitely check out that webinar or indeed that white paper if you are intrigued, listeners. If you like all things VIX, it has some intriguing nuggets in it. And Mr. Uncle Mike, same question for you, sir. Where should folks go if they want to debate which of the Rockies is best, even though we all know the answer, Rocky 4? I might have to make that a flash poll now to see what people say, Uncle Mike. What do you think?
I mean, I'd have a hard time arguing that. I like all. I'm biased because I absolutely love all Rockies, but if you want the 80s theme and what's the epitome of 80s movies, no question, Rocky 4, you got to go with that. But to debate me on such things, go to stcharleswealth.com and book an appointment. Let's have a phone call. We'll talk about Rocky and options.
All right, Uncle Mike, we'll put a flash poll. It'll go live after the show, and you can follow along with it. We'll mention you on Twitter, so you can keep an eye on the results. And we'll let the people decide at the end of the day, Uncle Mike, which is the greatest. We will obviously, there's only 4 choices, which is appropriate because we're not going to include Rocky 5. We'll just pretend that didn't exist. But Rockies 1 through 4 are all fair game, listeners. Get in there, make your voice heard, and maybe hit up Uncle Mike if you want to hear his live reenactments of that. I hear they're pretty good. And then back again in a little bit with Dan the Man Grams to talk futures. Back again after that for the Hot Options Report. Then we're back again tomorrow. I'll be joined by our good buddy Dr. Vix and Ewan Sinclair and other special guests to talk all things vol. Should be a hot time on the VolView show tomorrow. And then after that, one final time for all you pro folks coming back to talk weird and wild paper on options oddities. And then we're back, of course, to wind down the week with the Hot Options Report before we're back again on Monday for the Rock Lobster and Uncle Mike to do battle in yet another 80s trivia challenge on the option block. Until then, stay safe out there, everybody.
The Option Block is brought to you by Cboe. Cboe's suite of S&P 500 index options, SPX and mini S&P 500 XSP options, allows traders to speculate on the direction of the market, generate income, and hedge for downside protection of their portfolio of stocks. No matter what kind of trader you are, there's plenty of useful information to take the guesswork out of creating your portfolio strategy and to help you make more educated moves in the market. Visit www.cboe.com/SPX today to learn more. The views expressed herein are those of the speakers and do not necessarily reflect the views of Cboe Global Markets Incorporated or any of its subsidiaries, collectively Cboe. The information provided is for general education and information purposes only. There are important risks associated with transacting in any of the Cboe products or any of the digital assets discussed here. Before engaging in any transactions in those products or digital assets, it is important for market participants to carefully review the disclosures and disclaimers contained at www.cboe.com/US_disclaimers. These products and digital assets are complex and are suitable only for sophisticated market participants. These products involve the risk of loss, which can be substantial and, depending on the type of product, can exceed the amount of money deposited in establishing the position. Market participants should put at risk only funds they can afford to lose without affecting their lifestyle. You're listening to the Options Insider Radio Network, the home of the Options Podcast. For more quality options programs, visit theoptionsinsider.com or search for Options Insider Radio Network in your podcast provider of choice. Listeners can also access all of our programming through our mobile app available in the iTunes and Google Play stores. Select programs are also available via live stream at mixlr.com/options-insider. That's mixlr.com/options-insider. Don't forget to follow along with your favorite programs and submit your own questions for the hosts at twitter.com/options, stocktwits.com/options, facebook.com/theoptionsinsider, or via questions@theoptionsinsider.com.